Yeah, honestly, I've been working really hard to get back to full health, and I feel like probably over these last couple of weeks is when I've probably started feeling my best. Obviously, my ankle.
Is the WNBA trying to break Caitlin Clark? From the moment she stepped onto the professional court, it seemed like there was a target on her back, a bullseye painted on her jersey that only opposing players could see. Every hard foul, every aggressive check, every post-game bruise fueled a single, burning question that echoed across social media and sports talk shows. Is the league deliberately trying to humble its newest, brightest superstar? The narrative exploded online, portraying a league full of jealous veterans trying to take down the rookie who was suddenly getting all the attention. But that story, while compelling, is far too simple. The truth isn't about the whole league turning against her. It's about a specific, calculated strategy, a physical and psychological gauntlet orchestrated by one brilliant and tough-as-nails coach who decided Clark's welcome to the pros wouldn't be a celebration, but a brutal trial by fire. That coach is Stephanie White, the leader of the formidable Connecticut Sun, and the drama that erupted between her team and Clark led to a statement from the rookie phenom that nobody saw coming. It was a statement that completely changed the way everyone viewed her journey, her resilience, and the very nature of her introduction to the WNBA. The story of what really happened between them is far more intense and strategic than a few on-court scuffles. It's a story of a tactical clash, a battle of wills that didn't just define the start of a legendary career, but also held up a mirror to the entire league, forcing it to confront its own identity in a new era of unprecedented fame. It all began the second the Indiana Fever's schedule was released, with all eyes circling the dates of their matchups against the Connecticut Sunday. This wasn't just another game on the calendar. The Sun weren't just another team. They were, and still are, a perennial powerhouse, a juggernaut known for their suffocating, soul-crushing defense and an unrelenting physicality that wears opponents down to the bone. They are a perfect reflection of their head coach, Stephanie White, and there was absolutely no chance she was going to roll out the red carpet for the most hyped rookie in the history of sports. In their very first meetings, the message was sent, not with words, but with action loud, clear, and painful. From the opening tip-off, Caitlin Clark was hounded. This wasn't just tight defense, it was a form of basketball interrogation. She was bodied, bumped, hip-checked, and challenged on every single possession. Players like Dejounte Carrington, a defensive specialist with a reputation for being a pest, became her shadow. Carrington wasn't just guarding Clark, she was trying to crawl inside her jersey, getting right in her face, denying her the ball a full 94 feet from the basket, and making sure every single inch of the court was a battle. It was a strategic mugging. The highlights that went viral weren't just of Clark's signature logo threes, but of her getting knocked to the floor on a screen, of her being shoved out of bounds, of her looking at the referees with a look of exasperated disbelief. The constant bruising contact was designed to do more than just stop her from scoring. It was designed to frustrate her, to get in her head, to make her question if she even belonged. To the casual fan, the millions of new viewers tuning in to see the Iowa sensation, it looked like blatant bullying. It looked personal. But for those who understood the game, it was something far more calculated and, in a strange way, a sign of ultimate respect. And the mastermind behind this brutal blueprint, Stephanie White, was watching it all unfold from the sideline, seeing her game plan executed to absolute perfection. But that wasn't the whole story, because this plan had a purpose that went far beyond winning a single game in May. It was about setting the tone for an entire season and sending a message to the rest of the WNBA. To truly understand why the Connecticut Sun played Caitlin Clark with such ferocious intensity, you have to understand their coach. Stephanie White isn't just some sideline commander shouting plays. She's a product of the very same gritty, hard-nosed basketball culture she now instills in her team. She was a legend in Indiana long before Clark, a star player at Purdue who led her team to a national championship. She played in the WNBA during its formative years, an era where toughness wasn't just a desirable trait, it was a prerequisite for survival. She knows what it takes to carve out a career in this league, and her entire coaching philosophy is forged from that fire and experience. Her teams are known for one thing above all else: an unbreakable defensive identity. They are disciplined, they are physical, and they take immense pride in shutting down the league's best players. So, when the Caitlin Clark phenomenon arrived, bringing with it private jets, multi-million-dollar endorsement deals, and television ratings that dwarfed previous records, White wasn't going to let her team become a passive backdrop in the Caitlin Clark show. She was going to make sure the show had to go through her. Before the games even tipped off, White was transparent and unapologetic about her strategy. She went on record with the media, stating directly, "We are not going to let her get comfortable. She is not going to come in here and just do what she wants." She explained that the game plan was to be physical at every level, to deny her the ball, to fight over every screen, to make her feel a body on every single cut, and to force her into tough, contested shots late in the shot clock. In her eyes, she wasn't targeting a rookie out of malice. She was game planning against a generational offensive talent, the same way a coach would scheme to stop an A'ja Wilson or a Breanna Stewart. It was the highest form of basketball respect. White essentially revealed that the perceived drama wasn't fueled by personal animosity or jealousy. It was a tactical war. She was challenging Clark, testing her resolve, and seeing if the phenom from Iowa had the mental and physical fortitude to handle the grit and grind of the WNBA. White was establishing her team as the league's ultimate gatekeepers. The message was clear. If you want to be a star in this league, you have to prove you can survive the Connecticut Sunday. And as this aggressive, unapologetic strategy played out on national television, it ignited a cultural firestorm that went far beyond the hardwood, spilling into every corner of the sports world. The intense, borderline brutal physicality shown by Stephanie White's team didn't stay on the court. It exploded into a full-blown, nationwide media spectacle. Suddenly, it felt like everyone, from seasoned sports analysts to casual fans who had never watched a WNBA game before, had a deeply entrenched opinion. Sports debate shows like ESPN's First Take and FS1's Undisputed dedicated entire segments, day after day, to dissecting the treatment of Caitlin Clark. The conversation became a flashpoint for a host of other issues, and analysts were sharply split down the middle. One side, often populated by former athletes and old-school coaches, argued this was exactly what the league needed. They framed it as good, old-fashioned, competitive basketball, a necessary welcome to the league moment that every great player must endure. They drew direct parallels to the infamous Jordan rules employed by the bad boy Detroit Pistons in the late 80s, a ruthlessly physical strategy designed to stop a seemingly unstoppable Michael Jordan. They claimed this was the ultimate sign of respect, undeniable proof that the league's veterans saw Clark not as a novelty act, but as a genuine, game-breaking threat who had to be contained by any means necessary. The other side, however, saw something far more sinister and damaging at play. They accused the Sun and other teams who quickly adopted their physical blueprint of being driven by jealousy and resentment. They argued that these players were intentionally trying to injure the league's new cash cow, the very person responsible for the sudden surge in charter flights, higher salaries, and unprecedented media coverage. Fans, particularly the new ones drawn in by Clark, flooded social media with slow-motion clips of hard fouls, creating highlight reels of hits and shoves, demanding fines and suspensions from the league office. The narrative quickly solidified. The vets were hating on the rookie, who was bringing all this newfound attention and money to their league. It became a PR crisis and a competitive dilemma, all rolled into one. At the very center of this swirling vortex of opinion and outrage was Caitlin Clark herself, who was now dealing with far more than just on-court defenders. She was dealing with the crushing weight of a global conversation about her very presence in the sport, a conversation that questioned her toughness, her legitimacy, and the motives of every player who guarded her. And what happened next would shock everyone, because her response to this immense pressure wasn't the one anyone predicted or expected. Beneath the deafening noise of the media debates and the undeniable physical toll of the games, Caitlin Clark was navigating a psychological storm that few athletes, let alone two-year-old rookies, ever have to experience. Imagine being hailed as the savior of a league, carrying the hopes and financial futures of so many on your shoulders, and then facing a nightly physical onslaught specifically designed to break you down. The pressure was simply immense. Every single game was placed under a national microscope, with millions watching, waiting for her to either live up to the impossible hype or spectacularly fail. The transition from college basketball, where she was the undisputed queen, and the entire system at Iowa was built around her singular talents, to the pros was already a massive leap. But adding this extra layer of intense, targeted physicality made it exponentially more grueling. Insiders and teammates noted that behind her calm and composed public demeanor, the frustration was undeniably real. No competitor enjoys being constantly knocked around, especially when they feel the contact is excessive. The challenge wasn't just about figuring out how to score against longer, stronger, and faster athletes. It was about learning how to maintain her composure when a blatant foul wasn't called, when a drive to the basket ended in a hard collision with the floor, or when an opponent got in her face after the whistle. This was a profound test of her mental fortitude as much as her physical skill. She was facing the best defensive players in the world, night after night, who were all following the aggressive blueprint that Stephanie White's team had so effectively laid out. This was her silent struggle, the part of the story that didn't always make the highlight reels. It was the deep tissue bruises, the mental exhaustion of constant scrutiny, the pressure to always be the star, even on a struggling team. The world was watching intently to see if she would crack. They were waiting for her to lash out in a press conference, to complain to the media about the officiating, to publicly blame her opponents for playing dirty. But she never did. Instead, she absorbed it all, processed it, and waited for the right moment to speak. And when she finally did, her words became the most powerful and strategic move she made all season. After another grueling game, one that followed the now familiar script of physical defense and hard fouls, Caitlin Clark sat at the post-game podium. She faced a scrum of reporters, all armed with questions about the physicality, the perceived targeting, and the ongoing drama. The room was buzzing with anticipation. Everyone could sense a potentially explosive, headline-grabbing quote was just moments away. They expected to hear frustration, maybe a thinly veiled shot at the refs for not protecting her, or perhaps a direct jab at her opponents. Instead, what they got was a masterclass in emotional intelligence, leadership, and pure competitive fire. Caitlin Clark looked the reporters in the eye and, with a calm but firm voice, delivered her big statement. She started by acknowledging the physicality, but immediately reframed it. "This is basketball," she said. She explained that she understood this was the best league in the world, filled with the most talented players on the planet, and that nothing was going to be easy or handed to her. She didn't complain. She didn't whine. She made zero excuses. In a move that stunned the room, she went on to compliment her opponent's toughness and intensity, giving them credit for their defensive strategy. Then, she delivered the most important line, the one that completely shifted the entire narrative. She said her focus wasn't on the fouls, the noise, or the media speculation. Her focus was on getting better, on watching the film, on learning how to play through the contact, and, most importantly, on helping her team win games. In that single moment, she completely flipped the script. The narrative of her being a fragile victim, of the league's veterans being against her, was systematically dismantled by her own words. She refused to be defined by the drama. She chose to define herself as a competitor. This statement was more powerful than any crossover or logo three-pointer. It was a declaration of intent. You will not break me, you will not intimidate me, and you will not distract me. I am here to play basketball, no matter how tough it gets. It was a moment of supreme maturity and self-awareness that earned her a new, deeper level of respect, not just from fans and the media, but from the very players and coaches who were putting her to the test. Caitlin Clark's powerful and unexpectedly mature statement sent immediate ripples throughout the entire WNBA ecosystem. The media narrative, which had been sizzling with the hot-take fuel of controversy and jealousy, suddenly and dramatically cooled. It became incredibly difficult to continue painting her as a victim when she so emphatically refused to see herself as one. Her unwavering focus on basketball over the surrounding drama forced everyone else, analysts, fans, and even her opponents, to do the same. The most significant impact, however, was on the perception of her budding rivalry with teams like the Connecticut Sunday. Stephanie White, who had been unofficially cast as a sort of villain in this story, the architect of the Get Tough on Caitlin strategy, was now seen in a different, more professional light. Her strategy was no longer widely viewed as a personal attack born of resentment, but as a legitimate and even respectful form of elite competition. After Clark's comments, White was inevitably asked for her reaction, and she didn't hesitate to praise the rookie's mindset, calling her a true competitor and acknowledging her mental toughness. The dynamic shifted almost overnight. What had been framed as a bitter feud transformed into a compelling professional rivalry built on a foundation of mutual toughness and respect. The subsequent games between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun remained incredibly physical and intensely competitive, but the narrative surrounding them had fundamentally changed. It was now seen as the best kind of sports theater. A rising superstar learning, in real time, how to overcome the formidable challenge laid down by a veteran, championship-contending team. Clark didn't just endure the physicality from that point on, she began to actively adapt and counter it. She learned to use her speed and quickness to avoid the initial contact, to deliver her passes a split-second faster, and to pick her spots more wisely, using screens more effectively to create space. The welcome to the league gauntlet thrown down by Stephanie White hadn't broken her. It was forging her into a smarter, stronger, more complete professional player. But the impact of this intense clash was about to become much bigger than just the on-court results between two teams. It was setting the stage for a league-wide evolution. This entire saga, this microcosm of conflict between the fresh face of Caitlin Clark and the established toughness of a Stephanie White-coached team, serves as a crucial chapter in the larger, the more important story about the evolution of the WNBA. This wasn't just a rookie being tested.